is Java from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at get methods or getters, and we're also going to look more generally at returning values from methods. So just to recap what we did in the last couple of tutorials, I could create a class up here if I wanted to, although you usually create classes in their own file and declare them public like this, but I'll create a class just up here for the moment. I'll call it person, and let's give person some instance data. So I'll say string name and I'll say int age, and let's give them some behavior with a method. So I'll say void speak like this and sys out my name is, and I'll add name in there. And in my main method here I can create a person object now. So this is the idea of a person, basically. It's a person class, and now I want to actually create a specific person. So I need a variable that can refer to that person. I'll call it person1, and then here I say equals new person, and here I'm magicking into being an actual person, well, in software terms. And then I can say person1.name equals, let's say, Joe, and person1.age equals 25. And I could, if I wanted, I could call this speak method. So if I run this now, nothing's going to appear on the console because I'm not calling this method. But I could say person1.speak down here in main, and if I run that, then it invokes this code here. Now, often in computing, you want to use a method to either retrieve some data or calculate something. And let's have a look at how I could have a method that calculated something. So I'll say void calculate maybe years to retirement, let's say, and I'll do a calculation here. I'll say int years left equals, let's say this person retires at 65. Horrible thought, but there you go. I'll say 65 minus age, and I'll make this method just output that information that it's calculated. So I'll say years left here, and again, if I run that, there's nothing new down here. But if I then call this method here, so I actually invoke it, I say person1.calculate years left retirement, and I run that, then I get this 40 here, which was calculated here. Now, supposing that I want this calculate method not to output anything, I just want it to do the calculation and then tell me what the result is. In other words, in here in main, I want to be able to get the result of this calculation and do what I like with it. How could I do that? Well, here you see that a keyword, void, a Java keyword, and this says that this method does not return anything. We talk about methods returning values, and I want to change that. I want to say that this method is going to return this value here. So the first step is to say int, because I'm going to say this method returns a value of type int, because years left is of the integer type int. And the second step is down here at the bottom of the method, I want to say return years left like this, because here I've said it returns something of type int, and here I'm saying, yeah, what I'm actually returning is years left. And when you type return, this will literally leave your method at that point, which is why it's usually at the bottom, although it might not be. It could be somewhere else in your method, enclosed in an if statement, and it might only execute under certain circumstances, let's say. And I can get rid of this here, and if I run that now, so you don't see anything, of course, but in my main program I could create a variable of type int, and I could call it whatever I like. Let's call it years, and I could set that equal to, and now I set it equal to the return value of this method. So it looks like I'm setting it equal to this method, but I'm not. This is actually this is a method here, of course. It's this, and this is just data, a variable, and you can't set a variable equal to a method. But what's actually happening is I'm setting this equal to the return value of this method, and this method is returning this here. So years, ends up being equal to whatever I return here, which is years left. Now I can output that and I can say sysout years till retirement, and let's just output that years there in my main program. So this this return value has enabled me to get a value in my return in my main program. And if this seems confusing at all to you, which it will do if it's the first time you've seen it, then definitely just type this out a few times yourself, and just from typing it you'll start to feel familiar with it. Just make it work and try returning different values. And now another really common thing to do besides returning the results of calculations is later on we're going to look at encapsulation, which means encapsulation means that the data that you declare in a class is hidden away from other classes. So in this case it would mean later on we're going to look at how you can stop other classes like this class app that I've got my main program in from accessing that data directly, which it's doing here. And so motivated by that, we need some way of getting this information if we do actually want to make it available in the main program here. And what I could do is, in the same way that here I've got this this method that returns the result of a calculation here, I could have a get method that returns the age. I could say int get age, and notice I'm starting it with a lowercase g as always, lowercase c there, lowercase s. So it starts with a lowercase letter, but because I've got two words in it, I then capitalize this letter here to make it easier to read. And then I'll put in the brackets, and then I'll just say return age. So this method now just returns this age, and in my main program I could say, let's say int age equals, and I could say person1.get age, like that. So this will end up being equal to this value here, which is this, and which at the moment I'm actually setting in my main program here. So it's a bit of a convoluted trail from here to here, and it's returned here, and then it ends up in this variable here. So, and you need to follow that through and sort of get your head around it. And I could do the same with string. I could return the string types. I could return the name here. I could say string, because I'm going to return name, which is of type string, get name, and I could say just return name. So these are getter methods or get methods, and if you're following a course on Java you'll get asked about these for sure, and even if you're not, you'll absolutely need to know how to do this. And then in my main program I can say string name equals person1.get name, like that. And just to show you that I'm really accessing those values, I can say name is, let's use the name here, and then under that I'll say age is, and let's use the age there, and I'll get rid of this person1.speak by commenting out. I'll just put a couple of slashes in front of it, so this is no longer going to run. But if I run this program now, so I get this runs, and then my get methods are returning the name and the age from my object, which I actually set here. Okay, so this for the moment I just wanted to show you how to have methods that return things. You can also return arrays, by the way, in just the same way, and this is going to make more sense in future when we actually encapsulate this data and hide it away using the keyword private or protected. But for the moment, just get used to how these methods work, because you will need to know about this. And here in this tutorial we've looked at getting values from methods, and in the next tutorial we're going to look at passing values into methods, and we're going to look at setters and set methods. So until then, have fun with this, and definitely type that out and practice this a bit if it's new to you. And until next time, happy coding.